people that are living through a shitty situation of any sort, tough life.
I think that is overlooked. Everybody thinks they're a loser. Every young person thinks they're a loser. At least a young person in the situation I was at. Like, I didn't know I wasn't a loser until I started winning. I wasn't really a loser. I just was someone who was like in a up situation. But you could channel all that energy that you have as a young person into something and get better at it. And then all of a sudden people admired me. I was like, this is crazy. So I went from being someone who was incredibly insecure and basically a failure to someone who was really successful at this one thing that was very dangerous. Find a thing you like. Try to find a thing that you really enjoy. Try to find a thing that you're passionate about. For me, early on, it was drawing. It was illustrations. It was comic books. I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. And that was my vehicle out of my dilemma. That was my vehicle out of my own anxiety and trauma and my own issues and insecurities. And there's far too many people that get sucked into living a life where you're just doing a job. You're just showing up and putting in your time and then going home, but you don't have a passion for what you're doing. And I think that's the recipe for a boring and very unfulfilling life. Find something. Find a thing that you genuinely enjoy, because getting good at things you genuinely enjoy is extremely beneficial. You have to understand like who you are, and then in the face of other people's either criticism or lack of faith in your ability to succeed, you push through, and there's great benefit in that. And then you realize that you can kind of apply that to other things in life. You can apply that to critics. You can apply that to social media commentators. You can apply that to a lot of things.
Okay, what about young people in their 50s? People that have done some shit in their 50s. You've gone through a hell of a life. There's potentially some incentive to settle down. You still think it's possible to shift things in your 50s?
Yeah. If you're alive, you can get better. Yeah, no matter what. If you're alive, you can shift things. I mean, if you're 90 years old and, you have a month to live, you could apologize for the things you think you did wrong and maybe sort of reconcile and shape relationships that you have with the people that are around you better so that they feel differently about you after you're gone. If you're alive, you can get better at stuff. And I don't think people are happy if they don't have puzzles and complex tasks and things that are interesting to them, whether it's an art project or whether it's learning something completely new like stand-up comedy. Like, doing things that are difficult it's as much of a nourishment of the mind as food is a nourishment of the body. I think you need things that are puzzling to you, where you have to find your own human potential in the difficulty of the task and work your way through things. There's a lot of people that are scared of their ability to do something that's difficult. You see someone who's doing something that's really tough to do, and you go, man, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could force myself to be disciplined. I don't know if I could force myself to take that kind of action. Well, if you do force yourself to take that kind of action, you don't have that question anymore. That question, I don't know if I can do it. Well, you're doing it. So you obviously can do it. Can you do it tomorrow? Well, you did it today. Or can you do it tomorrow? Just do it. And then in the middle of doing it, it'll become easy. Even if it's not easy, even if it's hard, it's easier than not doing it and wishing that you had done it. That's the worst. And I think that enduring something and building up that ability to endure things, that's also a very important mechanism that you could apply to everyday life. Like that, the mechanism of understanding how to endure. Because a lot of people are just running from discomfort. They're running from it. They're just avoiding it. It's so easy to. And like, if you get distracted for a second, you're like, let me check my phone. You just start going through your phone and looking at bullshit, and you're just distracting yourself from the tiniest frustration of boredom. Just little, we don't get bored anymore. Or if we get bored for these tiny amounts of time, then you get distracted. So your distraction is eliminating your boredom. But the problem with that is like, there's certain thoughts that only come to you when you're thinking, when you don't have any input coming in. When we're constantly looking at our phones, the only input you're getting is input from other people. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes you get good stuff out of that, but it's like a diet of only fruit. You know, like, hey, motherfucker, you need some protein. You need to get some other things in your diet. I think having discomfort in your diet, like having it as a regular part of your life, it minimizes the amount of other kinds of bullshit that you create. I like to do a lot of different things, and I like to do things that I'm not very good at. And in doing things that I'm not very good at, I learn about learning. And I think learning about learning, like especially new things, it's so, especially for someone who does something and has been doing the same thing for a long time. What I find makes me better at stand up is not just doing a lot of stand up, but also doing a lot of other things. And particularly doing things that I'm not good at. Doing those things that I suck at, it helps. Give yourself something, an arduous, difficult task where you're challenged mentally and challenged physically. One of the great things about being challenged physically is it's also mental. The people that don't understand that have never really been challenged physically. People that think that physical challenges are just physical, it's just brute grunt work. It's not. It's emotional intelligence. It's understanding your desire to quit and conquering your inner bitch. All that stuff it's mental. It's playing out inside your head. And there's a mental strength that you acquire from that you can apply to intellectual pursuits. Only pursue intellectual things and don't pursue anything physical. That the physical stuff is base, it's grunt work, it's primal, it's not necessary. I don't think that's accurate. That's unfortunately overlooked by academics and intellectuals. They make excuses for why they're fat and lazy or scrawny. You know, one of the biggest failures in life is to be extremely successful financially, but everybody hates you. Everybody hates you, and you're just miserable and alone and angry and depressed and sad. You know, when you hear about rich, famous people that commit suicide, like, wow, you missed the mark. You got some parts right, but you put too many eggs in one basket. You put too many eggs in the financial basket or the success basket or the accomplishment basket, and not enough in the friendship and love basket. And there's a balance to that. So the more you can spread love and the more love comes back to you, you also create this butterfly effect, right? Because where other people start recognizing like, oh, you know, when he's nice to me, I feel better. And then I'm going to be nicer to people. And when I'm nicer to people, they feel better and I feel better. And it spreads outward. You know, maybe you bicker a lot. Maybe you're jealous. Maybe you lie. Maybe you're cruel. Maybe you don't have a sense of humor. Maybe you're not kind. Like, what is it about you that people would not enjoy being around or that people avoid? Fix that. This is a really important one because people have this idea that somehow I'm 30 years old, I shouldn't be doing this anymore. I'm 50 years old, I should have learned by now. That's all bullshit. Throw that away. Toss that shit aside. You like these ideas of numbers that people have in their head that by a certain age you should stop. You are alive. And if you are alive and if you are thinking, all those numbers that you keep attaching, well, you know, when Einstein was 30, shut the fuck up. Stop doing that. That is a waste of your time. And stop saying to yourself, I should be better.